right. I think we're live, everyone.
Welcome to episode 2 of Crew's Corner. This is your crew. Love it. Love it. For some reason,
Perfectly cheesy. Love it.
Absolutely.
Love it. So, the topic of discussion today is, and I know Bob Carmel has a lot to say about this. I wish I had him on a guest right now because he has some things to say next time. Is do MMA gloves belong in Muay Thai? So, what do you think, Jake?
I like how you go to me first.
Because you've done it all, my friend.
It's true. So I think that it dramatically impacts the techniques and the style that Muay Thai fighters will throw punches. I mean, it sounds silly, but it's impactful to a lot of the techniques that are used in Muay Thai, right? Like I remember when I was training with you, Thiago, a lot of the circling off of the ropes involved using the closed part of the glove on the side of the glove so you could get an angle to throw a cleaner punch. But it seems like you might be able to cut the guard a lot easier.
Yep.
Punches are now closer on par with elbows. They will cut you. Plus, I mean, Muay Thai fighters hit hard. They hit real hard. And I think that having a 4-ounce glove as opposed to, in some cases, a 10, 12-ounce glove is a gigantic difference. Do they belong in Muay Thai is a very broad question for me. I feel like it depends, like if you're a guy who loves blood and guts and just violence, then sure, they belong. But if you are thinking about the traditional sense of Muay Thai and maintaining the integrity and purity of the sport as we know and love it, then perhaps not. But I would say, what is your guys' thoughts? Because you guys are the ones who are really deeply ingrained in the culture of Muay Thai. I want to hear what you guys think.
If you want to talk about authenticity, it was never boxed. The majority of the history of the sport of Muay Thai
It was ropes.
Was rope. They didn't have gloves. As a matter of fact, the story goes, from my understanding, is that Japanese dude in 1908 decided he didn't want to bust his hands up and he used boxing gloves. And I mean, that's one of the stories I heard. There's a couple of stories out there, but it was not 100 years ago that they started using gloves. We all know how old this sport is. It's definitely not 100 years old. So, one can argue that it does belong. But then you got to look at longevity of athletes. How long can you take punches to the head with MMA gloves? MMA, it's different because you get taken down. The damage is dispersed quite evenly, right? Like you're not just getting punched and kicked and kneed, but you're, a lot of the time you're grappling. A lot of the time there's wrestling. There is some damage, but, you can mitigate that. And, this is a tricky one to discuss because you can go both ways. A lot of people, are very against it because how can you have a long career in Muay Thai getting punched in the head with those gloves? But at the same time, entertainment value, man. It's fun to watch that shit. But do you want to be a fighter getting punched in the MMA gloves? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of tough.
I get that point. Another thing that I think about is, I mean, people are more acquainted with the MMA gloves in the MMA space, of course. And so think about like something like a Thai clinch and how already deeply complex the clinch game is in Muay Thai with those big gloves. You have to use mostly your forearms, proper utilization of your elbow against the collarbone, the ability to pull the head in one way or the other using the hook on the glove. Now you can connect your hands on the back. Yeah. You can manipulate the elbow by opening the web of your thumb. There's just so much. It opens up the game. And I think that it's, if anything, positive that I could, extrapolate from this being allowed in Muay Thai is maybe it will draw fans in from MMA to appreciate Muay Thai. Because, I mean, let's face it, Muay Thai strikers are significantly better than almost every MMA striker. I mean, the best MMA strikers are literally former Muay Thai and kickboxing fighters. So right. I think maybe it'll bridge the gap a little bit for the layman fan. That's something that I could see being a positive.
It does help.
That's one thing I was going to add, was that maybe that is the reason why the striking of Muay Thai got so popular in the UFC, is because of the glove change, and now the striking became that much more aggressive because the light gloves and the ability to strike fast.
Oh my gosh, look at Alex Pereira. The guy literally punched Sean Strickland's head into the third row. You know, like, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh!" And you know how many people have like looked up Glory highlights or looked up Muay Thai highlights, and now they see ONE FC and they're just like, "What the heck is one chance?" Like, Chatri's a madman for doing everything that he's doing. He's an absolute shark.
Dude, he's crazy. That stuff is something else, man. Just to get hit like that with,
Well,
I mean,
you have bare knuckle fight club, the fights too, right? The bare knuckle stuff that's coming, and you got Muay Thai fighters in there that are fighting.
that's true. I mean, it takes a special level of tough to be in those things, man.
Yeah, it's kicking it old school.
It's definitely old school. For bare knuckle boxing, you know, my girl Christina, I always watch her.
I was gonna say that's the pops in my mind. That's who pops in my mind too. I'm always seeing her post.
She's a bad motherfucker, man. I train with her when she comes out here, and she just, let me tell you, she doesn't hit she hits like a grown man. And I felt that firsthand. I was very impressed at her toughness and her skill set. It's actually very, very fun to watch too. But again, you know, for the sport itself, maybe it's good, you know. Now, you know, there's other things going on, you know. Then they shortened the rounds. You don't see a lot of 5-round fights with unless they're a title fight. You don't see a lot of 5-round fights now. There's a lot of 3-round fight in Muay Thai, and at least in the Muay Thai arena on ONE FC. And you know, the action is kind of, they seem they got away with the gamblers, and so there's not a lot of, they go straight to fighting. There's a ton of bonuses for keeping the fight exciting, and you know, creating these like high level wars. The fights that we're watching on the ONE is just, he's doing a great job at keeping it entertaining and encouraging athletes to keep it entertaining, right? You know, like if you even if you lose, you have a great fight. Shit, man, you get some proper bonuses just for warring it out, you know, rather than kind of sitting back and, you know, letting it go. So
what do you touch a little bit about you mentioned the gambling part of it and how it affects what goes on in the ring for the audience who is not familiar about this.
In case you don't know, you know, there's the gambling in Muay Thai is influences the sport quite a bit. You know, no, a lot. It's starting to become commonplace to the point where they're almost doing away with it. But the gambling in the traditional stadium rules is, you know, usually, you know, you're feeling out your opponent in the first round of a 5-round bout. Most all bouts in Thailand are 5-round bouts. And the reason for that is the first and second rounds, they're usually placing their bets. They're kind of studying the athlete and they're placing their bets, and you start figuring out the odds. In a lot of instances, you'll see a gambler come straight up to the athlete and kind of encourage him. Hey, you know, if you knock this guy out in the 4th round, I'm going to give you a percentage of my winnings. You see like a direct influence from the gambling, right? And then
not only that on the audience too, Tiago. I've been there in Channel 7 Stadium. I was just walking through the stadium and they're yelling at me, the gamblers, Pit, Farang, you back, Farang back. And you see up there, there's foreigner seating like in the back of the stadium, a big placard. I'm like, oh, sorry there.
Sounds like apartheid here going on.
It was an experience to say
I've sat a couple times with the gamblers. I actually sat with Aziz one time. I think it was Channel 7, and we just kind of, it was like it wasn't a good place to sit.
They take it serious. Yeah, they're real serious.
I mean, and there's a lot of big money being thrown around, so they don't want any, you know, interruption of that, right? And so I kind of moved up a little higher just because I was like, I want to see what this is all about. And I mean, it highly influences the sport to the point where that is probably number one reason why they do a 5-round fight. You know, the real action really starts round 2 and 3. Like they start to pick up round 2, round 3. It's like they're going at it, and that's actually where the fight really begins, right? They start to go pretty heavy at it. Round 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, probably the scored rounds. Round 5, you know, is usually if the bout's pretty close, and you'll see is sometimes they fight it out, but by round 5 they usually know who the winner is. And what you'll see is, you know, they kind of, you know, decide who the winner is. They kind of tag each other a little bit, and then you know, they let the clock run out, which isn't good for entertainment, right? It's not good for entertainment. No, everybody's like, what the hell? Why aren't they fighting? You know, if you show some of these fights out here, and I'll, you know, I do a kids camp, and I show the fights to the kids from Thailand. We have to explain to them. You know, they're like, oh, they're not fighting. Like, did they quit? You know, like, no, they just kind of seceded. You know, they're like, one guy seceded and was like, hey, I know I lost this one. I have a fight in 6 weeks. I'm not going to break my ass for this fight that I know I already lost. And so they kind of like, okay, we lost. And they kind of dance around. They tag each other a couple times, but they're not really fighting, especially if there's a clear winner. If there isn't, you'll usually see them fight, and they'll fight it out.
That's interesting that you talk about this point that they'll concede. Basically, if they know that they're going to lose, they'll concede because they're going to have another opportunity in the next coming days or the next coming weeks. The frequency that they fight is so much more than in America. So they play the long game,
and they're not fighting for a lot of money. Like, you gotta, like, relatively speaking, if you're you know, if you're comparing to boxing or even MMA, you know, for them that's 6 months earnings, man. Like, of the basic MMA fight, a lot of money for them. You know, on a low level MMA, you know, pro bout. You know, they're not making more. Sometimes they're making, you know, $1,000, maybe $2,000. You know, but for them, it's a lot. And you're seeing ONE FC giving out $20,000 fights, you know, and then they're encouraged to put on some MMA gloves and bang it out for 3 rounds. Like, okay, shit, this is a big payday. And I don't have to fight as much if I'm making $20K. Maybe I fight, you know, once every 6 months. That's, you know, you can recover in 6 months from a 3-round bout with MMA gloves like that. Now, if you're fighting frequently, that's pretty rough. It's a rough gig. You know, it's a rough gig if you're fighting every damn week with MMA gloves. So I guess it depends, right? Like, do we go back to the question? Like, do MMA gloves belong in Muay Thai?
Well, I think of MMA gloves as, you know, every sport has its equipment and its technology improves. It changes over time. You know, we talked about the original, right? The Muay Baran. They didn't have any of that stuff. You know, what we know as today as a, you know, traditional boxing glove and the design and things like that didn't exist. And then it became a part of the sport. And then the regulations and the rules kind of, you know, were written around the technology and the equipment upgrades. So like, just like we wouldn't expect people to play with wooden tennis rackets these days, you know, and everything's carbon fiber. It changes, the equipment changes the sport, and it's just like a natural progression. So does it belong? I say it does belong. It's a part of the evolution of the sport.
What do you say, B?
Well, I think we touched on this a little bit. My perspective is the same as the last episode. You know, I've had ties that are very, you know, just very hard line position on what Muay Thai actually is, and this is not it, right? Like having an MMA glove, it now is not Muay Thai anymore. It's something else. So, you know, by definition, you can call it like ONE FC. We've talked about that. They have their own rule set. They use striking from Muay Thai. They use techniques from Muay Thai, but the gloves are different. So in my opinion, it is no longer Muay Thai as a discipline, because the ring sport of it does use a boxing glove, you know, currently. That's the current rule set until it's changed by the powers that be in Thailand, AMTAT, you know, IFMA, you know, you got a lot of people in the pot now. But that's my position, is the definition of Muay Thai is the authentic sport of Muay Thai using boxing gloves.
Depends on how far back you go.
That's true.
How do you define authentic?
Well, that's why I was kind of saying the caveat is whatever the powers that be decide that are the, like your amateur Muay Thai associations, your professional Muay Thai association, WMC or, WBC, all these people are giving.
But if they're smart,
all those people actually disagree about what's authentic. Actually, all those people disagree.
That might lead into our Is Muay Thai Fractured episode
well, we're
coming
talk
up
about
pretty
that
soon.
next week. We're going to talk about that next week. We're not going to
But
lead
if
into
these
that.
powers that be, if the powers that be are smart, they follow the trends, right? Like any smart powers that be, they're going to look at the trends. They're going to say, oh, wow, everybody's wearing, for example, swimming. Everybody's wearing these super fast suits now, They have to regulate it and pull it back. Right. Or, people are using this now. People are using that now. And depending on how much advantage it gives the opponent, if it doesn't give much of an advantage, if things are still fair and they're still equal, then the sport, tends to evolve. And the definitions will change. If you just got, introduced to it, suppose all you know is MMA gloves, right? To you, that is all you know. That is Muay Thai to you. Maybe we're thinking about it too rigid, that Muay Thai is an umbrella of a certain style, like a genre, right? And then there are subgenres within it. Maybe that's another way to look at it.
Yeah. Well, even one championship does treat it like that. They still do glove Muay Thai matches. I mean, they do Muay Thai in a cage, Muay Thai in a ring, Muay Thai with the gloves, Muay Thai with the MMA. They do kickboxing.
But do they do the Ramway though? Do they do the white crew? Then that's not Muay Thai. I'm sorry, guys. It's just not Muay Thai at that point.
I respect that. I respect that, Brandon. You're a
do
purist.
They play?
You're a traditionalist.
Do they play the P Muay? Is it played by a live band? A live band also has to play it. Well, then it's not legit.
No auto tune.
You guys didn't have a live band at the U.S. Muay Thai.
Hey, whoa! Hey, take it easy.
I'm just saying, you can't have a double standard.
Yes, you can.
You can't have a double standard.
Now, wait a minute. Let me clear this up.
You and one championship are the same. You and Shatri are in cahoots.
I have attempted to bring back the instruments from Thailand in my adventure, and that could have a whole podcast of its own.
Oh my
because
God,
I'll tell you
they better be from Thailand, because you give me some replica bullshit, and I'm gonna be.
No, even that instrument, it has to be blessed and given to you by your teacher who teaches you how to play it. Like, you can't just buy one. Everybody I tried to buy one from, they're like, you can't. You have to go to a school. It has to be given to you. You have to purchase it and under the, guidance of a teacher. You can't just buy one.
Brandon, you influenced Combat Sports is a promotion that's starting in Arizona. He said, I'm firing my DJ and hiring a live Thai band.
If we could have, I would have by now. Trust me, we would have.
No, but to a point that I was making earlier, Ryan, you had mentioned like that it's sort of subjective now, like what Muay Thai is, because it falls under an umbrella. And that actually, I would say that could increase the beauty of the sport as a whole, right? But I also get Brandon's point with it being pretty rudimentary across the board. Hey, Muay Thai is Muay Thai, and that's what it's founded on. There are principles that are set in stone. They are rigid. So we have to also, I think, take into consideration and be realistic with the fact that sports, especially combat sports, there's an element of entertainment that goes with it. There's an element of you have to sell it. And I think that what we're seeing is MMA sells, violence sells. I don't think Muay Thai needed to be made more violent, by the way. I really don't. I've seen some Muay Thai matches perfectly exactly what Brandon's talking about, and it's very violent. But
you don't have to dip the ropes in glue and glass like on some movies that we've seen.
I think one good left hook from Peter Stanonik was enough for me to be like, all right, this is a violent sport. But yeah, this is my point.
I would say it does belong in Muay Thai. I think tradition is important, but only up to the point where it deters from an evolution of a sport. Every sport evolves. Obviously, we've seen Muay Thai evolve over the thousands of years. It's going to evolve, and you got to remember, in essence, what sport is. Sport is entertainment. It's the original
reality TV.
It's the original. It's the OG. And you got to remember that. You got to remember that every time you're looking at a fight, you're watching a fight as an athlete, and you're like, oh, why did they do it this way? Why did they do it? You got to remember that this is entertainment. It's show business. And everybody, you know, forgets that part of it and forgets a lot about, you know, what fight sport or any sport is. And the success of the sport is really determined by how many people watch it. And so, you know, not by how the integrity and all this stuff is. It's real, because if we were talking about integrity, man, there's a lot of organizations doing very well that have very little integrity, because they have the audience. And that's important. That's important to remember as an athlete, that you have to have an audience. As a promoter, right? Everybody that entails the sport has to understand that the audience is an important key factor in a sport and in its growth. Because without that, you're just a guy fighting in the street and nobody's watching, right?
The interesting thing about what you're saying that I was thinking about, I was just out skiing like for the first time, you know, and I was learning about the equipment, and I was in the lodge, and they have like old skis up on the wall, like old snowshoes and old stuff, and they look nothing like what the units that I was using. So funny though is that the equipment got more safe over time, but here we're talking about gloves that are probably less safe.
So most definitely, I mean,
probably.
When was the last time a Muay Thai fighter had to worry about getting poked in the eye, Brandon?
But you got to remember too, like, you don't really know that. You don't really know that.
No, I'm just throwing it out there for topic of thought.
I'm gonna challenge that thought. You're throwing it out there, but I'm gonna challenge it. You know, because do you really know whether it's safer or not? You know, a lot of people
Jake just talked about the poking of an eye out. That's
a lot of people talked about headgear in boxing was the safe way to go. And you know what the study found?
It's not.
Study found that it's not. It's not. You thought it was, but then over time, they did a very well-known peer-reviewed study that said that headgear actually leads to more concussion than less. And so, but guess what? Guess what? We still wear that. We still wear that shit because the state makes us put them on, right? We have to wear it. But is it safer? Studies show that it's not. And like legit studies show that it's not, right? And so MMA gloves may or may not make it safer. I haven't seen any deaths in 1FC yet. Maybe people are very cautious about their glove, about punching. When you have an MMA glove on, with the glove on, maybe you take a lot more damage than you think by covering up, turtling up. So it's hard to say, right? It's hard to say what is and what isn't unless it's actually really looked at in depth.
We're gonna need an R&D team. So for any of the listeners today or in the future, we need an R&D team to examine this and give us a report.
This is a great study, I think. It's like, do MMA gloves and Muay Thai actually make it safer or not? Now, that being said, again, I'm going to go back to my point. This is entertainment at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And the growth of a sport is determined strongly by how many people watch it, exclusively how many laymen watch it, people that don't practice it. That's really important, right? And so I say if that brings more eyes to the sport, I say let it happen. As an athlete, if I'm jumping in, I'm not jumping in or no damn MMA gloves, man. You better pay me some proper money for me to get in there. And I'm probably going to fight once or twice a year if that's what it's going to be. So if you're going to throw MMA gloves on, better be a nice payday because you're definitely going to take some damage. But as far as the development, the growth of the sport, why not? Let it happen. As a fan, I'm watching the shit out of that. Absolutely. A lot of guys can hide behind their gloves. You can't hide behind MMA gloves, that's for sure. So can't
I want to
turtle
go.
up.
I want to go spar. We're gonna have a sparring day at the gym with MMA gloves.
MMA gloves only.
I want to spar with MMA gloves, Tiago, and see how it goes down with all the.
No problem.
That sounds like a dangerous idea. That does not sound like a good idea at all. I don't know. I think that I'm kind of on the side with you, Tiago. I think my final thoughts on it are, I think that it is a progression. It is a new thing, and people love it, and fans love it. It is important to remember, like, nothing. Okay, seeing Colby Covington, for those listening who are familiar with him getting a title shot, completely undeserved, just because it sold money, just because it sold pay-per-views. That, or Chael Sonnen, great example, guy who talked his way to title shots. It's about entertainment. Like, it is the entertainment industry, and to some extent, right? There is merit, but we're also talking about what people are going to want to watch. And shoot, I'll tell you what, I watched Luke the Chef, Luke Lassay. He's a great Muay Thai fighter. He fights in one championship.
Fight, by the way, on one.
And you know what?
I loved
it. Championship. If you have a good fight, you're making $50K. Chatri just throws that stuff out like he's Oprah, man. He's just straight up. He's giving like so many cash prizes, and he's changing people's lives. So that's another cool thing too. Like Muay Thai fighter, you go out there and you actually do make a pretty good payday.
Yeah, that was a spectacular fight. I watched that a couple times. I was like thoroughly entertained multiple times. That was a really great fight. Would it have been as entertaining with boxing gloves on? I don't know.
I like seeing Rod Tang. I like seeing Rod Tang with some MMA gloves on too, man. They had Rod Tang versus Demetrius Johnson. First round was Muay Thai. Second round was MMA. Like, he's throwing everything, man. And I thought that was entertaining.
But again, he's a showman, and hopefully he stays in business. I just want to make sure. Hopefully he keeps going, and he keeps getting the funding he needs to continue to grow. Every company goes through hiccups, and we'll see what happens. But as far as the progression and what people want to see, give them what they want to see. If that's what they want to see, give it to them. So, in conclusion, we've had our debate. I think it was a good debate. Next week we're going to be discussing whether or not Muay Thai community is fractured. That's something I'd love to discuss. The U.S. community, that is. I'm not familiar with any other community internationally, but I am very familiar with the U.S. community. And, is it fractured? Is it something that needs to be fixed? If so, how would we fix it? If not, then why should we keep it this way? Otherwise, I hope you guys tune in next week. It's going to be a fun one. I think we're gonna try to have Vin on, Zavith, and he's gonna discuss a little bit. Ooh, Bob just joined us. Oh man,
he's gonna have to watch it back. He's gonna have to watch it back now.
He's gonna get mad at me for what I said.
No, everybody's in the gym training right now. We know you guys are all training hard, and we put this out there. Watch the replay of this one; it's pretty interesting, and add your thoughts in the comments, and we'll reply there too.
Those comments.
And join us on the next one, guys. We're gonna keep doing this for the rest of our entire lives, hopefully.
This is kind of fun. I like these.
Until I get hired by a bigger network and forget you guys.
Yeah, we all know that's happening soon, so we got to milk it while it's.
That's right.
Well, that's very kind of you to say. Jeez.
It's gonna happen. I already see it happening. Just remember, we discovered you.
Listen, I'm gonna live right next to you even when that happens, so we're still gonna be able to hang out.
All right, guys.
I'm going to throw a shameless plug up here. Register for the U.S. Open Muay Thai Spring Championships at usmuaythaiopen.com. And thank you, guys.
Thank you.